What if there was a podcast that did it all? Sports, politics, world events. Well, that's what we've got. You're listening to C&C Talks.
Hello, I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie.
Welcome to episode 18 of the C&C Talks podcast.
Just a reminder, we release every Tuesday and we talk about politics, world events, and sports. It is currently Monday, September 26, 2022 at about 1 p.m. Pacific time.
And coming up on this episode, we are going to discuss the numerous Trump investigations, plus the latest from Russia and Ukraine. It is not good. Or...
Depending on whose side you're on.
Well, yeah. We're going to talk about the NFL, college football, Ime Udoka's suspension, the MLB pennant chase, World Baseball Classic, President's Cup, Laver Cup, and a lot more. But let's get right into it with the first of a couple of Trump investigations.
And Trump is being sued for fraud by the New York State Attorney General.
Letitia James, yep.
His organization and his kids are also being sued, allegedly for inflated assets for loans and insurance, and potential bank fraud and insurance fraud as well. This lawsuit is for $250 million and would also banish Trump from doing business in New York. James also made a criminal referral to the DOJ and the IRS.
So really steep punishments for Trump because, first of all, if you think he's going to be able to turn up $250 million, you're kind of crazy. And also, banishing Trump from doing business in New York State, that would put the end to his business empire there. And then, of course, the criminal referral to the DOJ is big, and obviously he wants to stay out of jail. There's many things that could stop that. But another thing I've been hearing is, oh, well, why were Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka sued also? This is a political prosecution against them. Right, here's the thing. They were the third, fourth, and fifth ranking officers at the Trump organization. So,
that is true.
Right, they were clearly involved. But let's move on to another Trump investigation.
Yes, and this time for the classified documents from Mar-a-Lago. The DOJ no longer has to give the documents to the special master. This is after an appeals court panel ruled unanimously against the district court judge.
I'd like to actually make a slight correction on that. They can, but they're no longer required to, so that it's no longer halting their investigation.
Trump has made deranged claims about the documents, for example, saying that he can declassify the documents just by thinking about it, which he can't.
No, of course not. That's just completely ridiculous. And if he could, then maybe Biden just reclassified them by thinking about it.
And also claims that the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago was to find Hillary Clinton's emails. What?
Yeah, I'm really curious as to why he thinks that he has Hillary Clinton's emails.
And if he does, why would he? Why
wouldn't he turn them over?
If he believes that there's something wrong with them, he should turn them in.
Yeah. So just a completely puzzling statement from him, who is someone who is obviously known to make puzzling statements. But let's move on to the other frontrunner of the 2024 Republican nomination, and that is Ron DeSantis, another person under intense scrutiny, Charlie.
Yes, DeSantis is now under criminal investigation in Texas. As you may remember, he flew migrants to Martha's Vineyard as a political stunt and is also being sued by them due to what happened there.
Yeah.
And it is interesting to see that, first of all, the plan didn't work, and now it's completely backfiring on him.
Because he might be charged with crimes.
Which, the other thing is, if you take a bunch of people and put them on a plane without them knowing where they're going and lying to them about it, how did you not expect them to sue you?
Yeah, I don't know. We're on the January 6th investigation. The January 6th committee is actually going to be holding another hearing tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. in D.C., so look out for that. But finally, before we move on, there was a really bad, and I mean really bad, Charlie, political ad in Utah the other day.
Is this political news, or is it just something we put in there just because we found it funny?
I think it's just because it's really funny. So this is an ad by a woman named Linda Paulson, a Republican running for Utah State Senate. And before we play this, because it's really funny, we in no way endorse her or her views.
Hey, Utah District 12, listen up right here. There's a new name on the ballot for the Senate this year.
My name is Linda Paulson, Republican and awesome. Love God and family and the Constitution. I tried to get another conservative to run. Nobody could do it, so I'm getting it done. I'm pro-religious freedom, pro-life, pro-police, the right to bear arms and the right to free speech. I want less government control and regulation, want to stop and expose all political corruption. Where's integrity, morality, accountability? Government programs should lead to self-sufficiency and support traditional family as the fundamental unit of society. But in schools, they're pushing for new beliefs. And just to clarify this, because there's some who can't define this, as a female adult, I know what a woman is.
Well,
What was that? That's all I can say to it.
no, it's
What
completely,
did we just
completely
watch?
ridiculous. It's just, I don't even know. It's, well, how about we move on?
Yes, yes. The less said about that, the better.
To happier news, and that is, of course, Russia.
Oh, man.
Ukraine continues to beat back Russia is the main headline, but that's promoting some other things going on there that are less great for Ukraine, but also just really odd that Putin's doing.
Yes. For example, Putin is announcing that 300,000 new soldiers will be drafted. They're anywhere from the ages of 18 to 60. And people immediately started to leave the country. Long lines of cars at the border. Putin is trying to actually stop people from leaving the country for obvious reasons.
Yeah, but it's not working. Record numbers of people are leaving the country. Like that's not hyperbole. Record numbers of people are leaving.
One of the problems I see with this is, as this war gets worse and worse for Putin, he's gonna get more and more drastic until he does something that is
like
not a
gives
good
guns
idea.
to 2-year-olds.
Or nuking something.
Well, that's true too. There was also Russia's calling for referendums for joining Russia.
And we put that in air quotes, by the way.
Yeah, they're doing a vote in occupied parts of Ukraine for joining Russia. The results will, of course, not be recognized internationally because, well, how about we give you the details on how they're actually conducting it? Armed Russian soldiers are going door to door to conduct the vote, and they're asking you how you're voting, and then they're writing it on a slip of paper.
There's no way that can get rigged.
Yeah, no chance.
No way.
No chance. The UN General Assembly was also this week where many world leaders condemned the war in Ukraine, including Biden gave a speech. He said, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council invaded its neighbors, tempted to erase the sovereign state from the map. Russia has shamelessly violated the core tenets of the United Nations Charter, which, yeah, they have.
The problem, though, with them being on the Security Council is there's not much the UN can do.
Correct.
They can't send in forces.
Yep, they can't.
And that really limits their power to prevent what's going on.
Yep. In Iran, there's been massive protests after police killed 22-year-old woman Mahsa Amini, I hope I pronounced that correctly, for wearing a hijab improperly, which has caused protests, again, to go on all over the country, including people who have been burning their hijabs in protest. More than 50 protesters have died, though, because of the police crackdown, and the Iranian government, they've blacked out the internet until the protests are under control. Biden has condemned the killing of Amini at the UN General Assembly.
And we have some news out of Italy. They have a new prime minister, and I will need help with this pronunciation, Colin.
Giorgia Meloni, maybe?
Okay, yeah, that seems to be
Possible.
somewhat close anyway. Has won the prime minister election. The furthest right prime minister, actually, since Mussolini. She's the first female prime minister of Italy as well.
Yeah, so I guess that's slightly good that, she's the first female prime minister, but that kind of is canceled out by the fact that she's a fascist.
Yes, and we'll see how her term ends up.
Yeah. A couple of quick announcements before we move on to sports. First is that we have an all-new Bloopers episode for September. That's coming out this Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific time.
Oh boy, I'm going to look like an idiot this time.
Also, on October
As
8th,
usual.
8 a.m. Pacific time. That's next Saturday. We'll have a midterms preview special. That's 1 month before the midterms, so be on the lookout for that as well. But let's move on to the NFL. What happened in Week 3, Charlie?
Well, first, of course, since we record on Mondays, we didn't know the results of Monday Night Football for Week 2. The Bills destroyed the Titans completely, 41-7. Through the first 2 weeks, they had outscored their opponent 72-17. And they played last year's Super Bowl champs and last year's number 1 seed in the AFC, and have soundly beaten them both.
Yeah.
And the Eagles managed to beat the Vikings 24-7. Both teams won in Week 3. The Eagles beat the Commanders easily, and the Vikings barely beat the Lions. So how good are these two teams?
Well, I think that the Eagles are the favorite to win the
I do believe they
East, and I've gone back and forth on this
I believe
many
they can win
times.
the NFC.
I think it's possible. The Vikings, I'm not sure anymore if they're still the favorites to win the North. I'd say Packers probably over them at
They
this
hold
point.
the tiebreaker at the moment,
They do
though.
hold the tiebreaker, but of course they play another game against the Packers.
Yes. Is it at home or is it in Lambeau?
Ooh, where was it in Week 1?
I don't know.
I don't remember, but I think that
And
those
so
are
that
both,
will be crucial for who wins.
Yes.
'Cause the Vikings, if they're not at home, especially with the Packers' advantage in Lambeau,
in
it's
Lambeau.
going to be very hard
yeah,
to beat.
but no, I think both of these teams are playoff teams. You know who's probably not playoff teams?
The Raiders.
The Raiders, yeah.
Or the Titans.
Or the Titans. The Titans won that game, so they've improved to 1-2, which is, maybe not quite what they were aiming for after being the best team in the AFC last year. Raiders, meanwhile, 0-3. They were a playoff team last year.
They're confusing to me because they didn't lose very much. They added Devontae Adams,
Yeah, that's a big ad.
and
but-
they've just dropped off completely.
Yeah. Maybe they need John Gruden. Heck, or not. The Colts upset the Chiefs after an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty allowed the Colts to win the game.
And a
touchdown.
muffed punt by the Chiefs.
Yes. Chiefs kicker, though, also missed a field goal and an extra point. Their normal kicker, Harrison Butker, is injured. So just an absolutely terrible performance on special teams for the Chiefs.
Indeed.
May have lost them the game.
And I think in the game of the weekend, the Dolphins managed to beat the Bills. I do think the Bills should have won that game, but they made some incredibly sloppy mistakes on
And they
offense.
had some injuries.
They couldn't get a field goal off to end the first half. As McKenzie cut in when he shouldn't have, and that ended the game with 6 seconds left.
So, but can the Dolphins win the division?
I don't think they're going to win in Buffalo
No.
in the second game. I think they're going to drop one of the Patriots at some point. I think they're going to be a wildcard team, definitely. And I think if they win a few of these close games, if they can beat Buffalo in Buffalo, they're going to win the division.
yeah, but
if they don't, I think Buffalo still has
No,
this.
yeah, I still think that
Buffalo
Buffalo's
looked like a
gotta
better
be the
team,
favorite.
but
yeah.
but they made some crucial mistakes and lost this game. I think, though, Buffalo is the better team, and I think they will win the division.
So the Ravens beat the Patriots. Lamar Jackson, 4 touchdowns in every single game this year. Is he the front runner for MVP at this point?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I saw something like he's on pace for 5,000 plus yards and 68 touchdowns.
That's ridiculous. That's just
Which, if he can pull that off,
it's completely insane.
that would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah. The Panthers beat the Saints 22-14. Are we sure that the Saints are a playoff team?
Not anymore.
No, they're 1-2.
No. I didn't think that loss against the Buccaneers was that bad. We kind of expected that to be 1-1. The Saints, of course, have beaten the Buccaneers pretty well before.
Yeah, but they barely eked out a win over the Falcons, and they
After the Falcons imploded
and they,
for
and
the
they lost
billionth
and
time.
and they lost to the Panthers. That's not a playoff team. It just
No,
doesn't look like
they're
one.
considered probably to be one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, they have to be. Jaguars crushed the Chargers and Justin Herbert 38-10.
Of course, Herbert was playing with a small minor injury, but
only a little minor.
I mean, he played.
He did play, but
He did play, but I don't think he was full strength.
I mean, Jaguars are going to win the South. They are.
the only thing
It's inevitable.
The only team that can challenge them at this point is the Titans, and their only win is against the imploding Raiders.
Yeah.
I don't think the Titans can do it.
No.
I think they're going to get a wild card team, and I think the Jags are going to win their division, and I'm going to win my bet.
All right, the Broncos, they barely beat the 49ers 11-10. So Russell Wilson, despite being paid $250 million, only has 3 touchdowns through 3 games with the Broncos. What's going on in Denver, Charlie?
Well, I got 2 answers for you. 1, Russell Wilson isn't playing well, and 2, Hackett's their head coach.
So then Cowboys and the Giants played last night. We do not know the results yet. Some other scores, Falcons.
Who do you think's going to win that game, though?
Giants.
I agree with you. I think the Giants are going to win
Some
that.
other scores, Falcons beating the Seahawks, Browns beat the Steelers, Bears beat the Texans, Bengals beat the Jets, Rams beat the Cardinals, and the Packers beat the Buccaneers.
I did really quickly want to comment on a few of those. That Bears-Texans game was much closer than it should have been.
Yes.
Mills threw a couple interceptions within close quarters. He threw one within 10 yards of the end zone. He threw another one later in the game. And the Bears only won by kicking a field goal as time expired.
Yep. All right, the Super Bowl halftime show. We know who's performing at it this year, Charlie.
We do.
It is Rihanna. So
We'll see how that goes then.
your thoughts?
Frankly, I don't watch the halftime show. I just watch
Yep.
the dog Super Bowl. I
right.
forgot what that one's called.
College football, week 4. Clemson barely holding off Wake Forest in double overtime. Kansas State, meanwhile, upsetting number 6 Oklahoma. Is this the end of Oklahoma's CFP dreams?
Yes,
All right.
I think so. If
Yeah.
if you lose to an unranked team, you're done.
Yeah, and
essentially.
I think that it's even more than that. Like, even if they win the rest of their games, a Big 12 team right now has to go undefeated to have a chance of making
That's
the playoffs.
correct.
Texas Tech also upsetting number 22 Texas. So the two Big 12 schools, Oklahoma and Texas, that are leaving the SEC, who both got upset. Meanwhile, number 23 Texas A&M beats number 10 Arkansas. Number 11 Tennessee beats number 20 Florida. Number 25 Miami is upset by Middle Tennessee. Auburn beat beat Missouri. Kansas beat Duke. So Kansas is now 4-0. Let's talk about the new rankings that came out on Sunday.
Yes. In terms of the rankings, Florida, Texas, and Miami all leave. Minnesota, Florida State, and Kansas State join the top 25. Arkansas falls 10 to number 20. Oklahoma falls 10 to 18, and there's no movement within the top 5.
All right, so the MLB pennant chase is continuing. Let's start with the AL wildcard race. Who's going to go to the playoffs?
I think Tampa Bay is in there.
Yep.
I think Toronto and I think Seattle is going to hang on.
I really hope so.
Look, the only team that can challenge us really realistically at this point is Baltimore. Looking at Baltimore's schedule, I think they're going to win the series against Boston,
Yeah.
and then I think they're going to stall out.
Yeah, that's very much possible.
I think for Seattle, I think that Texas series is winnable.
Well, all three of them are winnable.
And
but they just
they're-
haven't been playing good baseball
they're all home
recently.
games.
They are all home games.
And that's what's going to be the difference.
That is crucial. Aaron Judge's home run chase. He currently sits at 60. AL record is 61, set by Roger Maris in 1961. Meanwhile, Albert Pujols hits his 700th career home run. Fourth player all time to hit 700, along with Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, and Hank Aaron.
So third all time then.
Well, yeah.
Why is Bonds on that list though?
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Meanwhile, Rob Sarver is selling the Suns and the Mercury following his suspension for sexual harassment and his use of the N-word. They're still in the early stages of finding a buyer, though, so expect him to own the team for at least another year or two.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the Celtics coach Ime Udoka suspended for the entirety of the 2022 to 2023 NBA season after having an intimate, although consensual, relationship with a female staffer. So what are your thoughts on that suspension?
I don't really know enough about what happened here, so I don't really have an opinion on it, but I think it is interesting that he got suspended, and especially how long it was.
Yeah, especially since that's the same suspension that Rob Sarver got for, actual sexual harassment.
Yeah, which is weird.
This is
'cause
a
it seems
consensual
like
relationship.
the difference between what happened and the punishments being the same just doesn't seem correct.
Yeah. Right, Deshaun Watson, I get it's a different league, but still, Deshaun Watson got suspended, 13 games, I think, for
11.
For raping 30 people, at
I
least?
think it was 11. I think it's 11.
Yeah, maybe, but, right, that's just...
And do you know what's interested in this? Do you know what the first game back is?
It's
against
in
the Texans.
And if you don't think that that's intentional, then...
Oh, no, it is.
Yeah.
And the Texans are going to win that game.
Jazz have traded Bojan Bogdanovic to the Pistons. Jazz now entering a complete rebuild after trading away Donovan Mitchell, and Rudy Gobert. Meanwhile, the Pistons moving closer to contention after adding Bogdanovic and Jaden Ivey, while Kate Cunningham looks to improve on his impressive rookie season. It's a young team and one that could make some noise. Maybe not this year, but soon.
No, they are definitely a threat to look out for the next few years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they make at least the play-in this year and
Yeah.
continue to improve the next few
So
seasons.
some other sports transactions. Andre Iguodala returning to the Warriors, his 19th season and probably his last, four-time champion, all with the Warriors. Meanwhile, C.J. McCollum signs an extension with the Pelicans that will keep him in New Orleans through 2026. And this was exciting for us, Charlie. Luis Castillo signing an extension with the Seattle Mariners, keeping him under Mariners control through at least 2027. Which means the Mariners, Charlie, really going to have a really strong rotation for a very long time.
Yes, there's Castillo, Robbie Ray, Kirby, and Gilbert. Has Gonzalez not signed yet?
I mean, he is, but he's not their level.
He's definitely the worst of those five, I would say.
Yes. Don Mattingly, meanwhile, leaving the Miami Marlins, the manager there since 2016, a .428 winning percentage as the Marlins manager. That's a little bit of an eke.
Yes. And the FIA has released the Formula One schedule for 2023. It contains 24 races, the most ever, up from 22 from this year. It's supposed to be 23, but due to the removal of Russia, that was put down to 22.
So what are the new races?
China returns to the calendar for the first time since 2019, and Qatar returns from last year. Obviously, this year was removed due to them hosting the World Cup. And we have the debut of the night race at Las Vegas as the penultimate race of the season.
Yep.
So we have 2 night races to end the season, very similar to 2021, and we'll see how good this new track is. It seems to be, at least from what I've seen, a pretty fast circuit, and we'll see how well the drivers handle that, especially with these new cars.
So which track is Leave It then?
The Grand Prix at France has been removed this year. Luckily, Belgium was the other candidate to be removed, a fan favorite circuit, an absolutely incredible, the biggest circuit on the calendar as well, actually. So I think a lot of fans are quite happy that is remaining on the calendar.
Yeah, all right, let's move on to the World Baseball Classic, which is it's going to take place in March of 2023. Should have been 2021, but something called COVID happened. It's kind of like the World Cup, whereas players play for their home countries. So the teams in the tournament: U.S., Mexico, Colombia, Canada, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Israel, Taiwan, the Netherlands, Cuba, Italy, Japan, Korea, Australia, and China. But there's also 4 qualifiers, and those are taking place this month, actually. There's 2 rounds of qualifying, where 2 teams from each round go to the main tournament. So next week, it's round in Panama, where the teams are New Zealand, Brazil, Pakistan, Argentina, Nicaragua, and Panama. While last week there was one in Germany, where the teams were South Africa, Spain, Great Britain, France, the Czech Republic, and Germany. And the results are that Great Britain and the Czech Republic have qualified. The most notable performance was actually Harry Ford, a catcher for Great Britain there, and there's top prospect, actually, who hit 455 with a 1.952 OPS, 3 home runs in 3 games. That's
Wow.
pretty impressive, Charlie. Well, the President's Cup took place in golf. It's a golf tournament every 2 years between the U.S. and the rest of the world, not including Europe, because Europe plays the U.S. in the Ryder Cup. 12 players on each team. There's 5 rounds. First round, 5 foursomes. Second round, 5 4-ball. Third round, 4 foursomes. Fourth round, 4 4-ball, and the final round, 12 singles. So Team USA, led by Davis Love III, and the players were Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Sam Burns, Patrick Cantlay, Scotty Scheffler, Tony Finau, Xander Schauffele, Cameron Young, Billy Herschel, Max Homa, Colin Morikawa, and Kevin Kisner. While Team International, led by Captain Trevor Immelman, comprised of Siwoo Kim, Cam Davis, Rike Matsuyama, Adam Scott, Sebastian Munoz, Taylor Pendrith, Corey Connors, Sunjae Im, K.H. Lee, Tom Kim, Mito Pereira, and Christian Bezuidenhout. I'm not entirely sure to pronounce that. But Team USA won 17.5 points to 12.5 points. The 9th straight victory for Team USA. They actually started this tournament up 8-2. Meanwhile, the Laver Cup in tennis, an annual tennis tournament between Europe and the rest of the world, with 9 singles matches and 3 doubles matches. European team, captained by Bjorn Borg, with Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, who's playing in his final tennis tournament of his career, Casper Ruud, Stefano Tsitsipas, Andy Murray, Matteo Berrettini, and Cameron Norrie. Whereas the world team, captained by John McEnroe, comprised of Taylor Fritz, Francis Tiafoe, Jack Sock, Felix Auger-Aliassime, Diego Schwartzman, Alex de Minaur, and Tommy Paul. And Team World actually won their first win ever in the score of 13-8, in 5th tournament all time. So kind of an upset win, especially when the team has Djokovic and Nadal and Andy Murray. But that is all the time that we have for this episode. So make sure that you subscribe. We have episodes coming out every single Tuesday, available everywhere that you listen to our to podcasts. Also, make sure to please visit our website at cctalks.net and call us with questions. Our number is 360-389-2630. Again, 360-389-2630. And make sure to follow us on Twitter at CC Talks Podcast.
Yes, and for our team, Morris, our producer, who is not here today, Zach, our production designer, and Drake, our co-writer, thank you for listening. I'm Charlie.